Therapeutic touch has been credited for improving patients' health, improving their well-being, and in general, lowering the length of stay in healthcare facilities. I chose an article on therapeutic touch because I feel it's very important in our nursing careers. I use therapeutic touch on an everyday basis. I'm a home care nurse. When I go out to somebody's house, most of the time, I at least put my hand on their shoulder. I feel like it makes the patients more comfortable. I've always had good reactions from my patients. I feel like all of the patients are very receptive to me, receptive to my teaching. And overall, I think that patients are more compliant when they are touched because they feel more comfortable. They can ask you a question, you can answer it. And once there's no unanswered questions, I find that patient compliance is much higher. The article that I chose is Improving Medication Adherence by Using Practitioner Nonverbal Techniques, a field experiment on the effect of touch. So does therapeutic touch help increase patients' compliance with medication regime? As I shared with you before, I find that it really does. The three authors of the article that I chose are Nicholas Gudgeon, Sebastian Maneri, and Virginie Charles. The article looks at a study that was compiled to see whether or not touch improved compliance. It's been found that therapeutic touch does positively correlate with patient compliance. Today, all three of the authors are currently employed by the Université de Bourgogne Sud in France. They've all written multiple journal articles. Most of them can be found on ResearchGate, on Symptoma, and also on Patient Daily. Their works focus on patient and physician tandems facing unmet medical needs. So the study originally focused on 326 patients. 249 of them did complete it. The rest of the patients were unavailable at the time of reassessment or refused to let somebody into their home to reassess them. 6 doctors agreed to participation, and they were instructed to select patients from a bank of a certain age group, which is between the age of 20 and 30. All of the patients had to have the diagnosis of bacterial pharyngitis. They were all treated on the medication penicillin. All of the medications were packed the same. In this case, they were packed in a box. And the patient was instructed to take the medication 2 times daily, once in the morning and once at dinner time. They all said to the patient, "It is very important to take all of your medications in order to prevent recurrence." The difference was every other patient, therapeutic touch was used. What they did was they put their hand on the patient's forearm for just 1 to 2 seconds, not a long period of time. So the way it worked was the first patient they did touch, the second patient they didn't touch, the third patient they did, fourth patient they didn't, and so on. As the patients left the room, the results were recorded. The results were just on, showing that the age was between 20 and 30, showing that they did have the pharyngitis, that they were being treated on penicillin, also that the medications were going to be packed the same, and that the patient took them 2 times daily, and which patients were therapeutically touched and which patients weren't. They were interviewed 1 week later and asked a series of questions. 2 of the questions that were asked the patient was asked to score on a scale of 0 to 9. 0 being the lowest and 9 being the highest. The questions that were asked were whether or not they thought the doctor was concerned about them and whether or not they thought the doctor was competent. The results were staggering, showing that the doctors who used the therapeutic touch on the certain patients, the patients thought that the doctors cared more and also that the doctor was more competent. Therapeutic touch was proved to have a positive effect, in this case, on a patient taking their medications. None of the patients took all of their medications, which I thought was very odd. but the highest level of compliance was with those patients who had the therapeutic touch. The researchers proved that therapeutic touch is a very important part in getting patients to comply with medication regimes. During the study, the patients didn't know what the doctors were doing, but they were more likely to be compliant when they were touched. So again, does therapeutic touch help improve patient compliance? Well, the article proves it, and I noticed from my very own practice that therapeutic touch does help with patient compliance. I think we should all use therapeutic touch in our everyday lives. Thank you.